Hello everyone, my name is Ralph of Seidhr Academy and I help people discover new ways of winning at life. So in this first video I want to talk about this book right here. It's called Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself, which in itself obviously sounds quite interesting already. It's by Dr. Joe Dispenza and honestly I can say it changed my life. For those of you who haven't read this book already, this book is basically the roadmap of how to change your life, and not only your life, but also a roadmap of how to become the ideal you, of creating the ideal life that you've always wanted. However, this book is a little different than most self-help books because, as you might know if you're familiar with self-help books, most of them are really, I don't know how to describe it. It's kind of water writing. It's they say a lot of inspirational stuff. Yeah, they have some inspirational quotes, but a lot of this is it's just quotes. It's almost like it's not applicable in your life, where you have to try really hard to see, and you have to be really far into the journey already of self-help to actually grasp the ideas that they tell. Maybe they do that for a purpose, maybe not. But this book is different because really it gives so much scientific background and scientific explanations, but also it makes the link and it bridges the gap between science and spirituality and the mental part. And in the first part, Dr. Joe Dispenza gives some really cool facts, and it gives some scientific research about the things that he explains. And the most important part is that the difference is there with all the other self-help books is that he actually gives a roadmap of how to implement these things, these facts that he tells in the first part, and implement them in your life. Well, that first part is what I'm going to talk about right now, because right off the bat, Dr. Joe Dispenza talks about something very interesting. And he introduces us immediately into the world of quantum physics. Don't get scared though, because it might sound very complex. Ooh, quantum physics, but it's not as scary, and it's actually quite interesting what he says, because it's something that is very widely known in the world of today, is that everything we touch, like this tree, my face, you, everyone else is matter. Everything you see is matter, is physical, and you can touch it and you can feel it, you can, all the five senses, all that stuff, you can feel it, touch it, hear it, smell it, taste it. And quantum physics actually says that's not the way it really is, because there's so much more to life. And Dr. Joe Dispenza, in the first part of the book, he goes on to explain that what's quantum physics found is they looked at the very core of a cell. So what Dr. Joe Dispenza explains in a very accessible language, he tells us about how everything is built up. Basically, if you go back to the smallest pieces of the human life and just of everything on the earth, you go back to your protons, your neutrons, you're just atoms, basically that. But if you look deeper in that, what quantum physics tells us is that basically everything what we see around us is made up out of empty space. Basically what he goes on to explain is that you have the core of the atom, the protons, and you have the electrons that go around it. We all know this model from high school, and we've seen the pictures in the study books, but actually it's not exactly like that. Because yes, you have this core, but it's not exactly like the electrons go around it. Because what those quantum physicists found is that when they looked at the core of the atom, they didn't see necessarily the electrons around it. They couldn't see it. They could see energy potential, they could measure that, but they couldn't see the physical atom. However, then they found something very particular. Because what they saw is that around it, all of a sudden, as they started particularly looking for this electron, it appeared exactly at the spot that they were looking at. Isn't that odd? That's what they also thought. So they did another experiment, and what they found is that basically the observer influences the observed. That's one of the laws of quantum physics. And what they found is that the electron is, at the same time, it's a particle, but it's also a wave of energy. It's kind of like a cloud of energy around this atom. And the moment an observer, like the quantum physicists, look at it, it appears in that exact moment and place and time around the atom. And that's where it gets really interesting, because the atom, it's around this atom. The electron is around the atom core, around the protons. And basically is a cloud of potential, limitless, endless potential. It just exists as a potential. And I want you to get this, because everything around us is so spacious. Everything is, it's actually, there's a statistic which says we are made up out of 99.99999% emptiness, empty potential energy waves, nothing that is anything tangible. It means that we are only made up out of 0.00001% matter. And everything in that 99.99999% of emptiness is potential. And I want you to get this. That's what quantum physics say, that the world is made up out of potential. And some books go on to call this the space of alternatives. And what Dr. Joe Dispenza says, and what he explains, is that because you observe it, the whole universe, this whole potential collapses in this one point, this one electron. And that's so interesting because it happens on such a minuscule level. And that's only the minuscule, on the very cores of our very cells, of everything in this life. That's at the base of our materialistic, tangible universe. Keep that in mind. Because let's go back to that first quote that I shared with you about quantum physics. It's the law of quantum physics. The observer influences the observed, or the observation. That means that we, with our thoughts, with our whole being and everything we believe, and everything that we say and everything that we think, has an influence of what happens outside of us and within our lives. And I'm going to cut it right there. This is going to be another video for this very first video, but there's so much more stuff to come, and I'm going to be making more videos about this stuff, because this stuff really fires me up, and I want to share it with everyone, because this is so amazing to understand, and I really want everyone to know the limitless possibilities that are out there. But thank you for listening, and thank you for watching. If you like this, please hit the like button down below. Tell me what you thought about it in the comments, and subscribe to my channel to know more about it. Thank you very much, and see you in the next video.